This is Nathan Fantasy Football League Updates. Today, we reveal the number 14 in the Nathan Fantasy Football League preseason polls. We'll take you through their squad and how they can be successful this season. All that and more next. Nathan Fantasy Football League Updates. Welcome back to another preseason poll episode. Today, we are getting you the number 4 team in the league. Just yesterday, we got you the number 5 team. If you haven't gone and seen that video already, though, I highly recommend going and giving it a check out and check out the rest of them. We've ranked 10 through 5 so far. 3 AFC, 3 NFC teams. So if you haven't seen those, go check those out. But if you've already seen those, you know we've gone through the Rough Riders, the Bunnies, the Groundhogs, the Zestmeisters, the Flying Squirrels, and now the Iguanas team. And today, we're going to get you the number 4 team. There's 4 teams left, and after today, only 3 to go. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and it doesn't hurt to hit the notification bell down below so you get an update every time we post these preseason polls and more on this fantasy football league. But let's get into it. Please don't forget to comment down below what you think of this take, if you think some teams below them are better, and really just let me know what you think of my takes on this team. This is a team that I think's got a great ceiling. I really like this team a lot because at number 4, it's the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp. That's right, the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp are number 4. My team, the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp, we're going to give myself 4. And that's not to be biased, but I think my team is the 4th best on the board. I picked at number 10, made one draft day trade where I moved back in the 2nd round with the Empire Strikes Back to move up in the 3rd, 5th, and 7th round, which honestly I think helped out a ton. So the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp, let's meet the team. This is a team, obviously for me, I've been the choke artist in the playoffs. I have finished 2nd place 2 out of the 3 years, and going back to the 8-man league, I finished 2nd place 3 out of the 4 years, so we're finally hoping to get over the hump. We make it to the championship game every year, but we fall short. But this is the year. The Bowling Green Cave Shrimp are gonna get it done. That's right, I believe in the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp. But as I mentioned, we picked at 10 overall. Now, do I regret moving back a little bit? Maybe, but did it allow me to get a better quarterback? Absolutely. So, let's get into my quarterbacks, which the move that I made, I traded back in the 2nd round because I felt like I could still get some great value, which I did, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I thought I was able to move things around pretty well and get a better quarterback than I would have. And the first quarterback off the board for me was Dak Prescott. Oh yeah, here we go. That's right. He is going to manage the Cave Shrimp team. Dak Prescott finished as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. The Dallas Cowboys had a great ending. That's because, CeeDee Lamb was a great, reliable receiver. But Dak Prescott, huge arm, got to stay off the injury list. That's for sure. Some injury problems with Dak Prescott, which is a concern for me. But nonetheless, if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a staple, great quarterback one for me. I know some people are hesitant, but I'm willing to take the risk, and I think Dak Prescott, if healthy, will continue to be a consistent scorer for me. And I back him up with, honestly, a solid 1-2 punch. I think I've got a great quarterback, too, in Brock Purdy. We've been talking all week about the Shanahan offense and how great they are at getting the ball to all of their superstars, and Brock Purdy is the facilitator there. He's really the point guard of this offense, and he does a great job of getting the ball out, and he's got a little bit of rushing upside, but a lot of great reads, not a ton of interceptions when you get Brock Purdy. I think he will be an excellent quarterback, to pair up with Dak Prescott, and that duo really helps my team feel good. And then we get to my running back room, and this is where my 1st round pick got used, and it took a little bit of mathing, but my 1st round pick was Jonathan Taylor. That is right, Jonathan Taylor, the number 1 overall pick formerly in our fantasy football league. He was the year 2 number 1 pick. He falls to me here at pick 10, which I thought was incredible. Obviously, the Breece Hall fall allowed me to scoop up Jonathan Taylor at 10, and I think he's got a lot of rushing upside. He's still Jonathan Taylor, and I think, we saw what he did in year one, and he's going to continue to do that here, I think, this season. Jonathan Taylor is going to be excellent this season because they've got Anthony Richardson. They're going to want to run the football, and he can do a little pass catching out of the backfield. Jonathan Taylor, honestly, I think was a steal at 10, and I'm happy to get him. But what also happened is I mathed it out. The picks behind me had already taken running back, so I had assumed they'd want a wide receiver. So I actually passed on some of the top receivers, hoping one would spit out at the 15th overall pick where I picked in the second round, and it worked out. We'll get to who I took there, but I mathed it out well so I could get Jonathan Taylor, who otherwise wouldn't be available at 15. So I pair Jonathan Taylor up with someone I didn't expect to be available there, and it's Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco fell to the beginning of the fourth round where I had my eyes set on a different player, but Isaiah Pacheco was there, and honestly, Isaiah Pacheco is a consistent 15-point scorer. He rarely wavers from that line, and that's awesome for me. I'll take a guy who's obviously going to score 15 a week, and I'll take that all day. So I diverted from my plan at pick 4, or my fourth round pick, to take Isaiah Pacheco, and that rounds out, I really think, a solid running back room. So now we get to my wide receiving core, and this is where I did a little bit of math, and I got the option of Puka Nacua or Garrett Wilson. Well, I took Garrett Wilson. That's right. Garrett Wilson is a member of the Cave Shrimp, and I know a lot of people are very 50-50 on Garrett Wilson. However, Aaron Rodgers, when healthy, has produced a top 5 wide receiver every year of his career when healthy. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a healthy full year. I think he'll bounce back, which means Garrett Wilson is going to be the guy. And Garrett Wilson, as long as he stays healthy, as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, he eats up targets. And Garrett Wilson, I think, is going to have a phenomenal fantasy football season as my wide receiver 1. So I'm really happy with this pick as long as Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy. So we move on to my wide receiver 2. And honestly, this was another guy that I'm perfectly fine with snagging. I got Deebo Samuel. Now, Deebo, obviously, he's got some great ability to get the ball on the rushing attack and on the receiving attack. He's really a versatile weapon. Obviously, with that and the Shanahan offense, you're going to have some up weeks and some down weeks, but I'm willing to accept those weeks where Deebo Samuel, on the flip side, can score 35 a week because he's rushing for a touchdown and catching 2 more. Deebo Samuel is a great versatile weapon that I am so happy to have on my team as long as he can stay healthy and not have as many down weeks as he did last year. So we move on to the tight end position, and I got a tight end that was falling drastically, surprisingly, projected around the 50-60 range. Trey McBride is a member of the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp, and I don't understand why he kept falling. He's the number 2 option, in Arizona. He finished the season after Zach Ertz was removed from the Cardinals' office as one of the best fantasy football tight ends. He gets the red zone targets, and guess what? He is the number 2 option in Arizona now, below Marvin Harrison Jr. That's still viable in my opinion. Honestly, I see that as a steal at the tight end position, and I love that I could pick up Trey McBride, a sneaky good tight end this season. Moving on to my flex position. Now, this was the guy I wanted to get with my 4th round pick. I wanted to reach on him to get him, and I didn't expect him to be there in the 5th round. Well, he was available in the 5th round, and I went out and got Josh Jacobs. That's right, the newest Green Bay Packer. I said, why would I not go out and get Josh Jacobs? This was a guy 2 years ago that led the NFL in rushing yards, and this is a Green Bay offense that doesn't mind to run the football. Obviously, people are worried, Josh Jacobs and A.J. Dillon are going to split. I don't think they are. I think Josh Jacobs is clearly a better back, and he's a better back than Aaron Jones, who was there previously. I think Josh Jacobs is the bell cow here for the Green Bay Packers. I think he is a steal, and the fact that I could get him in the 5th round, I am so happy about, because that rounds out a phenomenal running back room. Honestly, one of the top 2 running back rooms in this league. Pacheco, Jonathan Taylor, and Josh Jacobs. As long as Josh Jacobs gets the rock, he is going to be such a good fantasy weapon. So that brings us to the special teams division, and I was a little late to the defenses. I picked up the Steelers defense. Now, granted, Steelers defense always finds a way to get things done. They only had one negative point game last round, and they play in probably one of the toughest divisions in the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens, Cleveland Browns, and Cincinnati Bengals. But for some reason, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who love to focus on defense, find a way to be productive. Honestly, I think some weeks I will be leaning towards a waiver wire pickup, but most weeks I think I can rely on a sturdy Steelers defense to get me through. My other two special team members, Jake Elliott, the kicker for the Philadelphia Eagles. He had a great fantasy football year last year. Eagles drive stalled out. He's going to get the field goal, and Eagles put up a lot of points. So once again, Jake Elliott's going to get those attempts. I think this is a quality kicker. And I rounded out with the Tennessee punter, Ryan Stonehouse. Tennessee, I think, is going to punt a lot. I think Ryan Stonehouse will get me 4 to the 5 to even the 6 range, kicking the football away. So now we get to the bench, and honestly, my bench, I feel like, played out really well. I'm really happy with how my bench played out. I'd say this is a top 5 bench in the league. I lead off my bench with wide receiver Keenan Allen. That's right, I had him last year, and he was just so excellent for me that I brought him back, even with him being in a new uniform. Obviously, I've harped on the Bears and the Texans receivers as who's going to take over the production there, who's going to be the guy. I think Keenan Allen's going to be the slot wide receiver for the Bears. I think that's where Caleb Williams is going to look the most to try to get his slot receiver, especially with the veteran and Keenan Allen there. And so the main knock on Keenan Allen is, can he stay healthy? He's really struggled with the health issues, but we saw what he can do with a lot of targets last season with Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I think if Caleb Williams can feed this guy in the slot and he can stay healthy, this is an excellent bench wide receiver that if Deebo Samuels isn't working out, I've got Keenan Allen. So my next addition to my bench is Ezekiel Elliott, the lone back in Dallas. Really, I know Zeke is a lot older and, a different running back than he used to be with Dallas, but he's going back to a place where he was the lead back previously. They don't really have anybody to contest him for the running back 1 position. I think he's going to get a lot of the carries, and honestly, I don't need to play him. He's my running back 4, but on a week-to-week basis, if I feel like it's a good matchup where I've got a good bye week and Zeke's there, this could be a sneaky good guy to just plug in on a given week. We saw what he could do out of the backfield receiving the ball in New England last season, so a lot of potential with Ezekiel Elliott. So then brings up my quarterback 3, which I was definitely late to the party on. I went out and got Will Levis from the Tennessee Titans. Outside of the one great fantasy football game in his first ever start, he has not been super productive. I'm hoping, you get more weapons, a little bit more offensive line help. New offense, maybe Will Levis can be a little bit more serviceable. Obviously, I'm hoping I don't have to start him very often with Dak and Purdy above him, so we're hoping for the best, but obviously Will Levis is there if we need him. I hopefully don't have to play him a lot because I'm not too confident in Will Levis. We'll see how long he sticks around the Cave Shrimp team. Now moving down the board on my bench, we've got Jameson Williams, who I thought, why not? Take a flyer on Jameson Williams. There's been a lot of great news out of Detroit Lions camp that this guy is going to have a breakout year, and I like the idea that you can always take a risky pick. If Jameson Williams balls out and becomes the best wide receiver, in Detroit over Amon-Ra St. Brown because of the speed, he comes the next Tyreek Hill, great. I can plug and play him at my wide receiver too. It's a risky pick, but if it pans out, I love the pick. But obviously, a lot has to be seen with Jameson Williams, and we've really got to see if he can get the separation, work downfield. So it's a risky pick, but I think if it pans out, it works in my advantage. Moving down the board again, I go with another former Chargers receiver, Mike Williams, out of the New York Jets. New place. He's playing with Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, if I desperately need him, he's there, but I think he'll mostly be a bench player for me, but he's there, and if he breaks out with Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers can split the ball between him and Garrett Wilson, phenomenal. I just, taking a flyer on a guy in a new place, but with a really good quarterback, I think it's worth it. So another risky-esque pick, and if Mike Williams can stay healthy again, that's going to be a big question mark too. So then moving down my board, I picked up Kendre Miller, the former TCU running back, now with the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, he's hovering between that running back 2 and running back 3 spot within the Saints depth chart. Obviously, if Kamara goes down, I think Miller might become the guy, but obviously he's had health issues of his own. He's been up and down in a lot of injuries since becoming an NFL running back, so we'll see. I don't think Kendre Miller will ever see any fantasy football playing time for me unless I really need it, but he's buried at my running back 5 on the depth chart. Rounding out my lineup, it's Adam Thielen, who joined the team on waivers after I had one player we'll talk about in a second, but Adam Thielen, he's kind of that sneaky veteran guy for Bryce Young, who he's been able to build chemistry with. We saw Adam Thielen have some phenomenal games to begin this season with the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, that fell off towards the tail end of the season. Now he's got Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette in the building, but Adam Thielen, just a good depth piece there, could be used in a trade later on. And finally, I'm able to add him to my lineup because I picked up TJ Hawkinson. That's right, I kind of backed up my sophomore tight end just in case if he doesn't pan out. TJ Hawkinson will begin the year on probably the PUP list for the first 4 to 6 weeks. And obviously, when he comes back, I think he's going to be a great option that, he might play over Trey McBride. He's really just a phenomenal tight end that's, the great short route runner, and they're going to get him the ball, and he can work with it. Great red zone target guy outside of Justin Jefferson. So I like TJ Hawkinson sneakily sitting there on my IR until he comes back, and obviously if Trey McBride has some problems, I've got TJ Hawkinson to pick him up. So that rounds out my Bowling Green Cave Shrimp roster. Let me know what you guys think of my roster. Do you agree? Do you disagree? But I think this is one of the better teams. I think, a lot of guys that I didn't expect to fall to me, fell to me, and I was able to get them at great value. And I think I'm really happy with this team. I was really excited. Going into the draft, I didn't know how this team was looking. I was really worried with how this team was going to shape out, but it has shaped out incredibly, and I'm really happy with this lineup. So that brings me to my predictions for my own team. So obviously, there's always going to be a little bit of optimism with my team. So trying to find the floor is a little tricky, but I still think, obviously if Garrett Wilson and Deebo Samuels don't pan out, Jonathan Taylor and a couple of my other guys are injury prone. These veterans on my bench aren't phenomenal. I think, this floor is about 5-9. I think this team could have some ups and downs, and obviously if guys don't pan out, there are some potential possibilities for some bad weeks. Deebo Samuel plays bad. Trey McBride plays bad. Josh Jacobs doesn't have a good rushing game. Jonathan Taylor may be injured for a game. Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy throw too many interceptions one week. There are weeks that there might be bad games, but I think, that could lead to that 5-9 season. But on the flip side, I think if everything goes well, Garrett Wilson becomes the Devontae Adams of the New York Jets, and these running backs are all playing well. Jonathan Taylor returns to that number 1 pick form. Josh Jacobs returns to the best running back in the league. Isaiah Pacheco just stays consistent. Even like a receiver like Keenan Allen breaks out. The ceiling for this team is tremendous. 11-3 if this team works out. Obviously, there's a good mix of youth and veteranship in this roster for my fantasy team. But I think the ceiling truly is 11-3 if everything works out. But obviously, not everything works out in fantasy. And because of that, I think I'll have my fair shares of ups and downs every year, as everybody does. So my final prediction for the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp, I'm going to put myself at a modest 8-6. I think the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp, it's a phenomenal roster. Honestly, I really like how my roster shaped out. I think there are some areas that could be improved, but obviously we'll have our fair share of ups and downs as everybody else. But I think we will be a little bit better. We have, I feel like, less holes in the boat with this fantasy team. The Cave Shrimp, I feel like we covered quarterback well. Running backs is really covered. The wide receivers is going to be the big question mark if Garrett Wilson and Deebo Samuel can really work together. In that case, I mean, Deebo Samuel's being a lot more consistent. If not, Keenan Allen, can he be consistent? And can Garrett Wilson be that guy for Aaron Rodgers? So that'll do it today for my prediction video. An 8-6 final for the number 4 team, the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp. Let's go Cave Shrimp. Let me know in the comments below. Are you team Cave Shrimp with me? What do you think? Will these guys put it together and finally get me over the hump? Or is it another Destiny second place year for the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp? Or is this the year we win the chip and hoist the trophy? Let me know in the comments below. And we are down to 3 teams. Next time I see you, we have the number 3 team. It's either the Big Brain Binturongs, or rather, the Brisbane Bay Binturongs, the Empire Strikes Back, or the Michigan Avengers. One of those 3 teams will be in the next video The other two will fight it out for the number 1 seed in the preseason polls. But until then, have a good one, and thank you for tuning in here on the Nathan Fantasy Football Sports Network.